Today's program description, permanently solve shipping claims processing through automation, is as follows. Manufacturers, distributors, and suppliers who ship large quantities know that processing UPS, FedEx, or other shipping carrier freight claims is time-consuming, frustrating, and mundane. Manually gathering and entering the required information into unreliable carrier portals can take up to 15 minutes per claim. In this webinar, you will learn how technology can be used to process more than 25,000 shipping claims per day. Permanently solve your freight claims struggles for good through automation. Presenting today's program is Rohit Patel, Credit and Collections Consultant at iNymbus. Rohit Patel has extensive experience in the credit and collections arena with long tenures leading the credit and collection teams at Sony Computer Entertainment America, Warner Bros., Home Entertainment, and ResMed. At these companies, Rohit's expertise includes the development of strategic plans that led to improved financial operating results and successful global ERP implementations, as well as other process and system enhancements that led to increased efficiencies. Rohit believes that technology will play a critical role in the future of credit and collections and is always looking for cutting-edge technology that disturbs the norm. So without further ado, I am pleased to turn the program over to Rohit.
Thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate it. Good morning and good afternoon and happy Monday to most of you. Thanks again for the opportunity to walk you through some of the cutting-edge technology that there is. So today's agenda, real quickly, we're going to go over shipper claims. Many of you may be dealing with deductions, but this is actually receiving money back from our shippers. We'll go over a case study. We'll go over how bots are able to help your back office, and then what the next steps would be for any company listening in. So how to process, and you can insert UPS, FedEx, DHL, or any carrier name in here, freight claims faster. We feel your pain, but to really solve the problem, we need to understand what the situation is. And iNymbus went ahead and asked real people to walk us through examples of how they manually process freight claims. After we sat with several people, the conclusion we came up to is that, yes, we feel your pain and we want to help you get out of this mess. How painful is it? With Walmart and UPS, this is a direct quote from the manager at D&H, and said it's lots of fun, again, of course, sarcastically, just trying to track your parcels to your customers using FedEx, UPS. And so it's not really a lot of fun, but it is painful. A skilled AR clerk took 14 steps, 15 minutes, right? So this is somebody who does this day in, day out.
Actually, Rohit, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it looks like your screen is no longer showing on my end.
Okay.
Now it's back. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
Okay.
I think I've got
Go
to
ahead.
make sure I just click. All right. Can you still see it?
Yes.
All right. So, like I mentioned before, 14 steps, 15 minutes, 3 systems, your own ERP system, the carrier system. We're just using UPS here, but you can insert FedEx in there as well as your retailer, Walmart, Target, whomever it is. And we thoroughly went ahead and wrote all 14 steps in detail. Now, we just want to show you the game highlights. So that was all of the work that iNymbus did. So we're going to go ahead and show you the game highlights of the process. So it doesn't matter, FedEx, UPS, DHL, so long as they have a website, you're good to go. Systems don't always work. As part of the information that we received, they have a specific report claim that you have to go to. Buttons sometimes work, sometimes they don't. Often you get error messages. The other way you can get to the correct screen is by going to the Customer Service tab and selecting Delivery Issues. So the point here is that it can be challenging navigating through their website, and often your team can get frustrated just with a lot of these errors. Again, UPS and FedEx, unlike Amazons of the world, are in the shipping business. So they spend a lot of money on logistics, maybe not so much on their website. Again, the systems don't talk to each other. Often they have the information that's coming in from UPS or from Walmart, depending if it's freight on board or it's delivery. Systems are not always communicating on their side. So often you may have to wait a couple of days to go back and go ahead and file the claim. Upload the handy documentation. We talked about 14 steps earlier on. Again, they would prefer you to scan the airway bill, either print it out on ground, pick up the record, photos of the package, whether they were damaged, content. So they want you to prove to them exactly in excruciating detail why you're filing that claim. Often serial numbers are needed, what that merchandise was, and the proof of value. You can see there's 5 different types of documentation that they may ask for. Original invoice, proof of payment. They may come back and say, did you actually receive payment or did not receive payment on that? If there was a repair invoice, appraisal. So they really make it difficult for you to receive your money or your claim. And often they get back to you in 8 to 10, yes, that's business days, not calendar days. So often your team has to remember to follow up. Did I file that claim? Didn't I file that claim? Which ones do I have to do? When do I have to file it, or how many days do I have to wait for? Now, it's time to show them who's boss. Now, we're going to go through a case study with D&H Distributing. The problem was with Walmart, with FedEx, and also UPS, not just one or either, but both of them. What happened at D&H was they had over 3,000 freight claims a month, and in about 2 months, and they were due in 2 months, right? So they had to make sure that they kept up with them. Well, they couldn't keep up with them, and if they didn't respond in a timely manner, as most of you know, Walmart would deny the claim and not pay back. So they have time limits on their side. They do make you do a lot of your work, and then they put a time restriction against that. So D&H was looking for help. Now, how could they solve the problem? First, they went ahead and added staff, right? Because they had a deadline that they needed to get through. They added 2 full-time people working on it. Along with that, they had the whole team either working overtime before or after their regular hours, just to go ahead and focus in on these the claims. And often they had to come in to work on Saturdays just to meet that timeline. They said, let's have a look at several options. What is the best way to tackle this? Not necessarily putting bodies at it. Maybe look at a full service AR solution, or try something internally. D&H, again, are distributors, and they're not in the business of creating solutions, but they did consider that. Again, most IT organizations will say, yes, we can do something for you. All the prices, and again, the distributor margins are very, very low, so they had to find a cost-effective solution for them. They heard about iNymbus. They had heard about iNymbus had done this before in this space, that they have folks on their team that have credit knowledge as well as the operational knowledge that's required to help get down to the root cause and actually go ahead and help dispute these items. They knew exactly what to do and how to engage it. Not only that, they had been in the robotic automation for several years and have been using that in other areas also. Now, did iNymbus provide a tool? They actually didn't provide a tool to solve the problem. They said, we will solve the problem for you from start to finish. So iNymbus, and I'll go through it in a second, said we'll provide bots, should I say, to resolve, dispute, and submit your claims, right? So they would pull all this information. Those 14 steps would get eliminated by the robot. Sorry, not get eliminated, but it would be done by the bots. They took D&H's problem, and they actually did make it go away. Let me tell you how they did that, right? So how long did it take? D&H and iNymbus had several conference calls. During those calls, iNymbus records the process, right? They would have the users going through each step at a time. So they would record those. Then after that, they would go away. They would have all the information that's needed. They took about a month and came back with their own AR bots to help with the shipper claims. Now, when it was over, you may ask what they did with the staff. Did they lay them off? No. All they were doing, iNymbus was doing, is helping fill the plugs, right? So all those 14 steps, they were just helping them fill the plugs. Now it was being done automatically. If the websites are down for UPS, FedEx, the bots will continue to work, continue to go there. They don't need to be reminded. They will file that claim, and they will keep trying to file the claim until it's filed, right? Now the teams at D&H are doing more analytical and further work upstream to see where the holes were coming in from, and now they can plug them. Instead of spending the time doing all the data entry, they have the time to go back upstream to say, okay, either the warehouse, we need to ship better, there was issues with the shipper and so forth. Now, they felt great because they have their own little bot army that can fight every step of the way with UPS and also FedEx. So they feel like champions. I'm sure a lot of you saw the US women's have a great tournament in France earlier this year. Now, bots as a service, you hear about software as a service. Bots as a service is very similar. It is cloud-based, but let me go into this a little bit more for you. Robotic process automation, right? So robotic process automation is interaction, step by step, that normal humans perform, but now bots perform this as well. Along with that, most of you have probably heard of artificial intelligence, AI. So behind the scenes, they will be using the bots and AI to keep up with the ever-changing environment with UPS, with FedEx, or any other carrier that's in there. So what happens is iNymbus will go ahead and look at the process that you guys are doing. They will go ahead and apply the robotics automation to there to really streamline that process, and not only streamline it, but keep up with the volumes of data going through there. So that's the basic definition of robotic process automation. An IT alert trend, right? So yes, there are companies that are out there that are saying that, you know, we have RPA projects, and they are, but they did start in the accounts payable area, not necessarily in the accounts receivable area. Now, software companies want to come in there, they want to do an enterprise-wide RPA project. So they would go to the accounting department, they may go to the payables department, the receivables department, the GL department, everyone that you can think of, and say, by the way, our bots will help you make these journal entries, we'll help you go ahead and do that. And often what I've seen is that they try to put RPA in there, it turns into a big project that really never gets the traction that's needed, because of the technology, although iNymbus has been using it for several years, there is a specialty involved in there. So they're not the experts in the generic robots. you would have to hire consultants to go through this. They would do the requirements gathering, basically sitting with your teams. They would come up with implementation plans, which ones need to be prioritized, whether it's payables, receivables, or any other function that they may be looking at. And often it will take years from start to finish. And, you know, in accounts receivable, we're always downstream, and often it gets lost. You know, there's a lot of cost associated with it. They try to tie into the ROI to it. Teams, both of the consultants, IT, and your teams, it's a lot of overhead that's needed to complete this project. And off the shelf, there really isn't, but you can create your own chargeback scrubbing machine if needed. RPA Done Bottoms Up, right? So the best practice I've seen, and I've worked with other companies, that is take one process, try that out, look at it, make sure the provider that you're working with not only has the expertise, but has the technology to do it. You know, it's easy to say, let's try 4 or 5 processes, but highly recommend one business process, and maybe in the beginning with one carrier, not necessarily with both of them, but just start with one carrier. This way, it reduces your risk. You can prove the concept out and then roll it through pretty quickly. And it's a quick win for your area and your team. Your team will have a lot more appreciation for you, as well as being able to help them with their workload too. iNymbus really does level the playing field. We talked about shipping claims, but they also look at chargebacks, deductions. So basically, they're in the business to develop bots to resolve, dispute, and submit chargebacks or freight claims at, and I said lightning speed, but it literally is. Your team can be working on other things. The bots don't take lunch breaks, they don't take vacation, so they're working at your time, whenever you need them to work. What's next? Super simple, right? I've worked with iNymbus for several projects. Just schedule a demo of how their bots and how their process works, right? Next would be look at the vendors, look at your business, look at your processes, determine what your priorities are and the integration points. And then once you're there, you can implement bots, right? Or you can implement a bot that will automatically help with the dispute, help with the chargeback, as well as any shipper claims. And I know we're always constantly putting out fires, but you don't have to. Let the fragmented issues be done with technology, and so that you can focus on your strategic vision on where to take the department, as well as figuring out root cause issues. At Warner Brothers, I always used to work with my team and say, let's stop the bleeding, because if you don't stop the bleeding, you're going to have a constant dealing with deductions and chargebacks. So if your team is able to free up time to focus in on the root causes, you will ultimately have fewer deductions and shipper claims. Final advice on robots, right? Mentioned this a couple of times, right? So have, you know, your department focus on your issues, right? Not logistic issues, not issues with returns and so forth, but your specific issue, right? Implement the robots to help solve those problems that are created, right? Now, don't try to solve your issues, you know, with a larger outsourced RPA. I had mentioned that earlier. It is your department. Pick your area, pick your specific problem, and get that automated in months, not years, right? And yeah, there are accounts receivable packages that are out there, SAP, bolt-ons, that will do everything. Double check them. I know it's a statement here that I say that they don't really truly test them out to see what kind of RPA functionality they have end to end. And in the in the AR business, industry knowledge is definitely key, and I've seen that with iNymbus and the team there. There's always you can always go to the case study, learn more from the iNymbus site as well to get a better understanding, not only with shipper claims, but also with deductions as needed, and their robotics technology that they have. Thank you. And you can reach out to Ruben at iNymbus. He's a great person that you can get in touch with on some of that information as needed.
Great,
I'll turn
thank
it
you.
over to Caitlin if you have questions.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you for all your insights and techniques. I'd like to address some questions that we've received. One of the questions I received here is, what type of savings have you seen from implementing robots for shipper claims?
It varies, but in terms of manpower, it's almost incalculable. Basically, the bots will save the time and cost of doing that, the paper cost that's associated with it, the man hours that is taken to go through there. So, and again, it depends upon where you are in the States, as well as your average transaction type too. But we've seen savings of almost 60 to 80% on shipper claims. It's all about filing them in a timely manner, and also not missing that cutoff window as well.
Okay. For D and H, you talked a lot about UPS. Have you ever seen FedEx claims process automated?
Yes, we have. So I know I focus in on the UPS side of it, but yes, with FedEx, it's an easy tweak to help satisfy their navigation. So similar to UPS, FedEx, because iNymbus understands the technology that's out there. They can easily tweak the bots to do FedEx as well as UPS, sorry, as well as DHL and other carriers that have portals too.
Okay. How fast could we be up and running with our own robots?
Yes, I didn't cover this in the presentation. Often within months, right? We've seen implementations go as quick as 4 weeks, but realistically, the longest has been 2 months, where they've had, went ahead and recorded, like I mentioned earlier, twice how your teams would do that, and then they come back within a month, up and running, and able to go ahead and do that. So anywhere from 4 to 2 months, and we're talking about specific robots on how they do that. And like I mentioned earlier on, the other question is, once you have a bot that's helping you with shipper claims, it's easier to add shippers to it.
All right. Looks like we have another question, one more. When putting in robots for my company, how much will my IT need to be involved?
That depends, right? So a different organization, the IT organizations, often want to drive some of these projects. Where I've seen it being successful is where the business is driving it. You will need IT help to access your internal systems. And that's pretty much it. iNymbus has the ability to access FedEx, UPS, using the company's IDs through there. But honestly, it's literally given iNymbus the access, especially with the shipper claims, right? So it's directly with FedEx, directly with the UPS, so it's accessing to your ERP system or maybe your warehousing system. And that's about it, because it's a SaaS solution. It's done by bots. So there is not a huge involvement from your IT. If you were to ask me how much, roughly, I would say 8 hours at the most of that, 4 weeks to 2 months is just granting access.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rahit. Thank you for your questions and for attending today's seminar. A link to the on-demand version of this webinar will be sent to you following our program. For those of you who have further questions about the material covered in today's presentation or whose questions were not addressed in the Q&A portion, please feel free to contact Rohit Patel directly. Thank you and have a great day.